Photography basics can feel overwhelming really fast. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, rules, charts, buttons. If you've ever felt like you should understand all of this by now, I want you to pause for a second because photography doesn't start with settings. We'll learn that later in the series, of course. Photography starts with seeing. So today, we're not going to memorize anything. We're not even going to chase perfect exposure. In fact, it's okay to use auto exposure in the beginning or forever. Seriously. Instead, I want to help you understand photography in a way that feels calm and creative and doable, even if you're just starting out or starting again. When you strip photography down to its essentials, there's really just three things happening. And I'm not talking about the exposure triangle. Light, subject, and moment or mood. Everything else supports those things. First is the light. Light tells a story, of course. We're going to note the direction and the intensity of the light and also what's in the light because our eye is drawn to what's in the light. So be sure your subject is lit or the most contrasty part of your scene because the area of greatest contrast also draws the eye. But light is our primary tool for leading the eyes where you want them to look. Second is subject. Your subject gives meaning. So what is your subject? What is it about? What are you trying to say about your subject or make the viewer feel? Or what is it about your subject you want to highlight or draw attention to? And then there's the moment or mood, which gives it life. That has a wide interpretation because it may be a static or still shot like a quiet landscape or object in window light, or it may be a chaotic moment in a busy street. Capturing a specific moment in time that includes motion like an animal or sports on the move means we may need to choose a different shutter speed, but we'll get into those techniques later. Most images can be captured effectively with a program or auto mode on the camera. Even in the case of fast-moving subjects, catching them blurred completely captures the moment and the mood, right? It conveys speed. But yeah, we'll learn later how to freeze motion if that's what you're going for. For now, let's just keep it simple. You can learn every setting on your camera, but if you're not paying attention to those three things, light, subject, and moment, your photos will still feel flat. So instead of asking, what setting should I use? Try asking, where's the light coming from? Is it coming from a direction that gives this depth or highlights my subject? What am I responding to emotionally? And think about, how do I feel about the scene? And what made me want to pick up the camera in the first place? These questions simplify everything. Photography basics are not about control. They're about awareness, and awareness grows naturally over time when you slow down and notice more. I use a simple C approach whenever I photograph. I call it the C method. S for slow down, E for explore through the lens, and E for evaluate light, shape, and mood. This allows me to explore a subject very thoroughly from all sides and angles, to visually explore. Because the more unique perspectives that I can capture, the more I can communicate about my subject. Before I worry about composition or settings, I like to spend a few minutes in lens-led seeing, just exploring how light, shape, and space change as I experience the scene through different lenses. I usually carry a couple lenses with me when I shoot, but at the very least, if I need to choose just one lens, I'll pick a zoom lens with a range that offers me different perspectives and ways to view the world. Because the lens choice, also known as focal length, completely changes the experience, not just the view. I know some people like the discipline of using just one prime lens, not a zoom, but I like to capture images through different lens focal lengths because it expands my visual voice. So here's a fun series I like to share in my travel programs on the C method, exploring through the lens. This is in the Badlands, and when we stopped and began walking up this walkway, I noticed not only the distinctive mountaintop, but the happy little yellow flowers and the leading lines on the walkway. If you look at the first three images, you can see I have a wide-angle lens, which gets the mountain and the long walkway. I have a medium lens in the center, and then the last image, it looks like I have a long lens because it's compressed. The mountain looks really close, and yet the flowers are still out there. So that completely changes the view based on the focal length of the lens. Now notice in the third image with the white arrow, those are the little flowers I noticed. So as I walked a little closer, then you can see how I photographed it in the next 6 images, how I have the flowers close to me, over to the right, the mountain farther away, and obviously that is a little more of a zoom lens because it's compressing it. Look how close the mountain looks. And then the next image, it looks like a wider angle. I'm down lower and the flower is really tall, but the mountain is very small and low. So each one of these has a completely different look and feel to it because of the lens I chose and also the perspective, if I was up tall or down low. So you can see how the lens itself completely changes the look of your scene if you leverage it well. So this weekend, don't worry about getting it right. Just take your camera or your phone and go practice with the seed method. Slow down, explore through the lens, and evaluate light, shape, perspective, and mood. I'll see you again this coming weekend. Saturday is Valentine's Day, so go out and capture images of whatever you love, whatever makes your heart happy. Go play with photography purely for the joy of it.